Hey guys, I just wanted to go ahead and share with you all what I'm currently going through here in Riverside County, California. Um, little history about myself. My name is Ashley Hazel. I have a daughter, and I have been co-parenting for the past about 9 years now. And I had something recently happen to me that has honestly shaken me to my core. And I think this is something everybody needs to be aware about. Um, this is something going on that until this happens to you, you will not even realize the corruption that we have going on out here. Um, Let me just go ahead and start from the beginning. Basically, a few months ago, I had CPS come to my front door and they told me that my husband, who I'm co-parenting with, was just basically raided by the FBI. My daughter was at his home during this time when this happened, and he was under investigation for downloading and distributing lots of child pornography. And my daughter had to see all this happen. She saw the cops come. She saw her dad get arrested. You know, they had these dogs come in apparently that know how to sniff out electronics. I never knew that was a thing, but it is. So that's cool. But basically, all of this happened, and they came back to tell me, they were like, we're sorry to tell you this, but he's under investigation for this. I guess they came down from Sacramento, and they were able to get a search warrant into his home. They were able to confiscate all his devices. He's very tech savvy, and I've always known that. He did have a serious computer addiction when we were married and living together, which was for about 3 years we were living together. And that was one of the reasons we split up originally too, was also because he had such a serious computer addiction, and it did interfere with our marriage. But he did tell me at the time he wanted to go to therapy. We tried going to therapy. There was some information that, I found out through him. During our split, when we broke up, he wrote me a card. And in that card, he talked about how he has, a darkness inside of him. And he doesn't know where it came from. But basically, he admits how he is worried that he's a lot like his father. And a little history on his father. His father is a pedophile. And one of the reasons we also split up was because him and his family wanted to bring our daughter around his father. And I never felt comfortable with that because I just thought, if he's already a pedophile, why would I want my daughter to, even like allow that relationship to form, So that was a problem, in our relationship. And I tried getting us to go to therapy. But what I found out now is so shocking to me. And I just want to walk you through everything I've gone through. Originally, CPS came. They told me, they were like, you need to, go to court, file for temporary and ex parte, which is to allow me to have temporary full custody of her while the investigation is ongoing. So I was granted full temporary custody of her. I was in touch with the investigator, but he informed me that my ex is one of the most sophisticated suspects that they've caught, and his level of he can, and I've always known he's smart, with computers and stuff, but I guess he was able to encrypt everything so well that even the FBI is not able to get into his devices. So, basically, we're stuck right now with the investigation because they're able to track the child pornography coming and going from his home and to his IP address, but they're not able to get into the computer because he encrypted it. And the investigation is just kind of stuck right now. So I requested to the judge, I said, can you please offer, supervised visitation at the very least while this investigation's ongoing? They denied it. I also tried, so far I've tried showing them the card he wrote me, which talks about the darkness inside of him and how he's a lot like his father and all that. The first time the judge sent me, she ordered us to go to mediation. And the first time I went to the mediation, they didn't let me even speak to the mediator. And I filled out, they give you a questionnaire form that you fill out that explains your situation and everything. I filled it out. I had my evidence, which was the card he wrote me. And they told me, they said, well, since you have evidence, you can't speak to the mediator right now. You need to go downstairs and file it first. So that's what I did. They said, you go file it first and then come back up and we'll see you then. So that's what I did. I went downstairs, filed it. What was so weird was when I went to file the evidence, the clerk told me she can't file it for me without a cover letter. So I was like, okay, well, how do I get a cover letter to file my evidence? And she goes, oh, you need to go home and print it. And so I looked at her and I said, well, that's interesting because the mediator told me that I need to come down here and do it now. And I don't have a printer at home right now. So you want me to drive all the way home, print it, and then come back? And she was like, so after I told her that the mediator told me to come down to file it, she said, oh, that's funny. And then all of a sudden a cover letter magically appeared and they let me file it. So that was nice of them. But the second time I went to mediation, so they rescheduled, I went back up to mediation and they told me that they canceled my appointment and I need to go back to court. So that's what I did. Go back to court. Spoke to the judge again. But now the judge thinks I never went to mediation. So the judge told me that she started, basically telling me I'm being defiant because I didn't go to mediation when I was supposed to. When the truth is I did. But I was tricked because I had evidence, they made this process a lot harder. And that's the scary thing, is that it really concerns me that when people are going through this type of situation, if they have evidence, it concerns me that mediation is not looking into the evidence. They're tricking us basically. So I went back up. After the court date, I went back she rescheduled me for another date. Go back to the next court date, or to the next mediation date. This just happened like yesterday. And I had my questionnaire, right, already filled out because I filed it previously. And that was my proof that I had already gone to mediation, because on that paper I filled out, it had the date of the prior attempt where I tried to speak to the mediator. I showed her, I got the copy from the court. I showed the clerk, at the counter in the mediation office. She looked at it and she goes, how did you get this paper? And I just looked at her and I'm like, what do you mean? I already filed it. I tried to come to mediation last time when you guys didn't let me speak to the mediator because I had evidence. And then I went downstairs and filed it like you told me. And then I went back up and you guys told me that I can't speak to the mediator. I have to go to my court date. So this time I showed her the paper the questionnaire form, already filled it out. Nothing changed. And she told me, I'm sorry, but you need to change the date on the paper. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to forge my own document. This is my proof that I already showed up last time. And the judge is assuming, she's telling me that I never went to mediation when I did. So then she told me, well, you need to rewrite the whole paper onto another paper, because every time you come to mediation, you have to rewrite your questionnaire form on another paper. So, which concerned me because last time, I felt like that was them trying to set me up again to not speak to the mediator. And I asked her, I said, well, the form's right here. It's already been filed. Nothing's changed. So I have to rewrite it onto another paper all over again? And she told me, yeah. So that's what I did. I've jumped through these hoops, trying to do everything I'm supposed to do, rewrote the paper, submitted it, but now the date's changed. But what was so interesting was when I was in mediation, they told me that the judge should have already known that I filed that paper. So with that information given to me, I was like, then why is the judge accusing me of not going to mediation if she already knows that I attempted to go in the first place? So it was really interesting. And I realized, they did allow me to finally go to mediation. And I went and spoke to the mediator. And she told me that she basically tried to get me to agree that I am okay with having. I told her, this is exactly what I told her. And I have it right here. I basically let her know. She asked for, what I wanted. She said, how would you want your schedule to go? I told her, I said, he's currently under criminal investigation related to child sexual abuse material. The only reason he hasn't been formally charged yet is because the files he downloaded and distributed were encrypted. That doesn't erase what he did. It just makes it harder to prosecute. I'm not willing to risk my child's safety while law enforcement tries to catch up to his technology. And then I read to her, I said, I'm deeply concerned that someone who goes to those lengths to hide illegal material involving children should not have unsupervised access to a child until a full psychological evaluation and legal process has taken place. The moment that I told her that, I could see that, she did look at him and she asked him about the card he wrote. And he said that, he wrote it because he was drunk. But I want to know, why did it take so long for them to look at my evidence when I've been trying to file it? That's actually something that I filed. That card that I showed them, I attempted to file that during our divorce because there were so many red flags in that card. And it really makes me concerned that they're trying so hard to not look at evidence. And, this is about protecting my daughter. And I understand, that there's legal procedures that need to take place in order for things to happen. And I understand investigations can take a really long time. But I don't understand why they can't at least provide supervised visitation while this is still ongoing. That's one thing I'm really trying to fight for. And I just don't think it's fair that there's this legal loophole that exists for pedophiles to use, which is thanks to encryption. Because my question is, why is it we're able to track the child pornography coming and going from an IP address, but because it's encrypted, we can't do anything about it? So that led me to trying to think of a way to fix it, which is we really desperately need a bill that will protect kids that are also in the future going to go through this. Because if this can happen to me as a mother, I want other women out there to know to be careful who you're with. Because honestly, this is something, yes, it's a very rare circumstance for this to happen to someone, but it just shows you that the court system is not interested in protecting kids. If they were interested in protecting kids, why are they not allowing supervised visitation while this investigation is ongoing? Another little note I want to add is I had the investigator reach out to me and tell me a few more things about how they found toys, in his home, adult toys. And I also had someone from the FBI come over and DNA swab test my daughter to see if anything happened to her with those toys. And I'm still waiting for the results. On top of that, I'm living in a lot of stress every day because of this situation. I feel like I'm not being heard. My other concern is I was told that they found a camera in her bedroom, and I just don't feel comfortable leaving her alone there, knowing that maybe he's recording her in her room and he's distributing this material of her online. This is something no mom should ever have to face or fear. I never thought I'd be in this situation. This is not something that I want to publicize just for attention, but at the same time, if this can help other kids and if this can help create some type of law to prevent this from happening to anyone else, then I will share my story. And I'm really hoping, that something will come of this, something positive will come of this, because right now everyone's hands are tied. And to be honest, I'm also scared because I had someone who was a former CPS worker tell me that I could be facing child failure to protect charges. And I don't want to go through that because I am legally forced to co-parent with him. So all I'm asking is that we can find a way to create a bill to allow an investigator who's having a hard time getting into someone who is obviously distributing illegal material, because I also want to remind everyone that child pornography is illegal. And I know it's shocking, like I shouldn't have to say this, but when I was in mediation and I mentioned the toys, I said, I'm concerned. I'm still waiting on the DNA test results of the adult toys. She told me, well, what's the problem? I mean, that's natural. Toys are, and I'm like, yes. And I want to be very clear. Yes, there's nothing wrong with sex, okay? Like porn is legal. Child porn is not. So that's what I'm trying to target is we need to go after the pedophiles that are downloading and distributing child pornography and encrypting it, because they know that that's a legal loophole, that they can get away with it. And I just don't, this is not okay. I'm going to go ahead and post a link at the bottom, which shows my petition that I'm trying to get signatures for. But I'm also going to share a link to a congresswoman who is also trying to share, she's trying to get a bill passed that will help protect other victims going through this. The technology is very sophisticated nowadays. It's only going to get more advanced. We need laws that will also catch up to that. So that's just a little brief summary of what I'm going through. I'm not sharing names. I'm not sharing anything that I'm not here to, attack anyone. I'm a mom who wants to protect my daughter. And I also want to protect this from happening to anyone else. So thank you for listening.